Is everybody cool with $40 million? Now, don't misunderstand. I know that you'd be cool with $40 million. I'd be cool with $40 million. I could buy another jersey if I had $4 million. I'm talking about, is everybody cool with Dak Prescott at $40 million? Mike Fisher reporting from Frisco, home of the Dallas Cowboys, the star, right down the street. Michael Lombardi, 105.3 The Fan guest the other day with Sean and RJ, offers up a big fat number with a big fat theory. The number, I don't think, is worthy of much debate. The theory is fascinating, the theory about how we get there. First of all, Lombardi says he thinks it's going to take, in regard to the Cowboys signing Dak Prescott, $40 million APY. I don't think that's debatable. I think Lombardi's right on the money. I don't think that's a new presentation. I think it adds a certain weight to it that we've got a former NFL general manager who's plugged in to this league using that number out loud in a big fat headline, right where it belongs. But that doesn't make it new. It just adds weight to it. As we reported, exclusive, less than a year ago, the Cowboys offered $35 million, $175 million total, 5 years, $110 million or so, fully guaranteed. So the leap from 35 a year ago to 40, that's not the difficult one. I don't even think it's the controversial one, although you might. I've also, I think, won the debate when people would say, well, I'll pay him 35, but I won't pay him 40. And I'm saying, I'll pay him 35 because that's the going rate. And I'll pay him the other 5 because his qualities are rare. The other stuff is rare. His importance to this room, not this room, his importance to his room, his locker room, and his huddle, and everything else the Cowboys do, even beyond football, is almost immeasurable. So the $40 million, I've wrapped my head around. Don't have a problem with it. But Lombardi adds another wrinkle to this. A couple, in fact. One of them, he says, I just don't know how much more the Cowboys can do. Well, I bet you the agent, Todd France, would like to find out. If you can do 35, then you can do 38. If you're going to pay $38 million when you tag him anyway, then you can pay 40. And if you're going to pay 40, why can't you pay 42? Now, I'm not advocating that. There's got to be some ceiling. Even Jerry, when he says very generously, Dak Prescott has earned whatever he gets on that check. Whatever he ends up with, he's earned it. And he's got all the leverage. Jerry also told us the other day. Jerry means within reason. Not, you're not going to write him a check for $1 trillion. There's some ceiling, some realistic, reasonable, honest, honorable ceiling. But who says it's 40? I do believe one of the things that Todd France did last year that caused Jerry to come out publicly with us on the radio on 105.3 The Fan and say a deal is imminent. And then a day went by, and a week went by, and a month went by, and imminent never came. I think that Todd France indicated that the 35 was pretty close to enough, and maybe changed his mind. I think that's why there was a moment of animosity on the part of the Cowboys. And as we've discussed here, if Dak Prescott wants to feel animosity, especially with the silliness of the hype video and all that stuff, he's well within his rights to do that. But who says you can't move the bar in negotiations? I think Todd France already moved the bar. I think Dak Prescott's performance moved it some more. Again, they didn't win enough games, but it wasn't the quarterback's fault. Then he got hurt. The Cowboys looked awful without him. That moved the bar up some more. And then you look at the atmosphere and the tone of the quarterback carousel around the league, and you come to realize that he can be bracketed fairly somewhere between Deshaun at 39 million APY, I believe, and Patrick Mahomes at 45 million APY. And then Michael Lombardi's point is, when they sit down and negotiate, why does Todd France have to admit that Dak's not as good as Mahomes? He's not, but why does the agent have to concede that in negotiations? Surely the agent could start with claiming, my guy is just as good as Deshaun. Deshaun makes 39, and that deal was done a year ago. So what Lombardi's presenting to you here is a glimpse into negotiations, and of course he's been there, to where the bar moves a little bit, and the demands that might sound unreasonable to you or to me or even to the Cowboys sound very reasonable to a guy who's trying to pitch his client and saying there's nothing that stops Dak from being Patrick Mahomes. Again, you and I don't have to believe that. You can hope it, but we don't have to believe it. We don't have to be committed to it. We'd rather see Dak go to 2 Super Bowls back to back before we just assume that he should be paid as if he's going to. But that doesn't stop the agent from asking. So I think Michael Lombardi's got a point on the 40 million, and I think he's right, and I've always thought he's right. We've talked about the 40 million APY for quite some time. I think he's absolutely right about the agent's ability, willingness, whether anybody likes it or not, of inching the bar up. Even when everybody starts nodding their head at the table, the agent could still inch it up again. We've reported here, by the way, that Todd France has motivation this year to do a deal in a way that he didn't have motivation last year. He kind of had reverse motivation. As we have reported, Todd France took his 3 franchise tag clients and left them on the franchise tag last year. Why? A good working theory, that's a nice way of putting it, is that Todd France was not only shopping those clients, he was also shopping himself, and was leaving his agency to go to a new agency. And so my, again, working theory is that he shows up to the new agency and says, listen, in the summer of 2021, watch what I do. We're going to get 3 gigantic contracts. We're going to highest paid safety ever, maybe the highest paid quarterback ever, on and on. And so let's be the 4 Musketeers in the summer of 2020, and let's not do a deal. Let's wait. And then all 4 Musketeers are going to hit the jackpot, as well as my new employer. So there's motivation. I wonder if Todd France's employers, his agency now, wouldn't be going, hey, I thought you said you're going to get a deal here. What do you mean it's 1 year for 38 million? Why isn't it 5 years for 200 million? And then finally, there's this. When we talk about it's going to take 40 million to get it done, we're leaving out the years. We'll work on the assumption, because I do, that the Cowboys now need to look the other way on the year argument. Let's get this thing done. Because right now, 1 year doesn't look very good. Having him under contract for 3 years looks pretty good right now. Having him under contract for 1 doesn't, given what you're going to have to do with the franchise tag next year. The price tag would be exorbitant to tag Dak a 3rd time. I think it'd be $55 million. Before you pay 38 and 55 over 2 years, why not pay 40, 40, and 40 over 3? It's also notable when people talk about the salary cap problems here. I think a lot of people are getting this wrong. A long-term contract can be structured in a way where it doesn't count $40 million against the 2021 cap. You don't have to structure it that way. So there is benefit to everybody to have a longer-term deal. In Dak's case, not too long, because he wants another bite of the apple as soon as he can. But in the Cowboys' case, salary cap impact matters. And I do think Prescott needs to respect that. Tank Lawrence and Steven, when they did their deal, talked about, hey, that's not my problem, Tank says to Steven. You and your salary cap's not my problem, that's your problem. I get paid to get the quarterback. You get paid to manage the cap. And Steven said, he's right. At the same time, if you're trying to build a championship roster, I think it's fair to ask a player to at least be aware of it. But here's what might be the final stumbling block. We think 40 million is the number. Michael Lombardi thinks $40 million is the number? What if the Cowboys finally nod their head to themselves and say, fine, 40 million is the number? And then they look across the table and they slide it across the table. And Dak's side of the table picks it up, says, nope, that ain't the number. Fish out.